Hello. In March 1963, Nikita Khrushchev issued a seemingly unthinkable order to demote Marshal Vorontsov to the rank of private and strip him of all his Zasluzhny awards. Only thanks to the personal intervention of Leonid Brezhnev was a complete and irreversible reprisal prevented. However, even with this mitigation, a most honorable man and one of the key heroes of the Great Patriotic War, Marshal of Artillery Sergei Sergeyevich Vorontsov, suffered an unenviable fate. He was demoted to the rank of Major General, stripped of the honorary title of Hero of the Soviet Union, and dismissed from his high post as Commander of the Missile Troops and Artillery of the Soviet Union. The stated reason for the punishment, the standard and faceless for loss of vigilance, explained nothing to the shocked and bewildered public. Subscribe to our channel and don't forget to like this video to avoid missing other exciting stories about World War II and learn about all the participants of those distant events. The disgraced officer's name soon disappeared from the pages of historical documents about the Great Patriotic War and from school textbooks. But all his attempts to restore justice met a wall of incomprehension and were harshly suppressed by the authorities. The true reasons for the persecution of the renowned commander remained a mystery for decades, shrouded in secrecy and silence. Only in the 1990s, after the collapse of the Soviet Union and the fall of the Iron Curtain, did the reason for this unprecedented harassment of the war hero become known. Sergei Sergeyevich Vorontsov, hero of the Great Patriotic War. The future Marshal, born in 1901, joined the ranks of the Red Army in 1919, a difficult year for the young Soviet Republic. In 1921, he successfully completed commander courses, demonstrating outstanding military abilities. In the following years, he persistently studied, improving his knowledge and skills, and by the beginning of the Great Patriotic War, he commanded the artillery of the 6th Corps. During the Kiev operation, German troops encircled and destroyed 5 Soviet armies, capturing 650,000 men. In this chaos and retreat, Colonel Vorontsov showed exceptional courage and composure. He not only preserved most of his corps' artillery, but also led thousands of Red Army soldiers out of the encirclement, who joined his retreating regiments, finding salvation and leadership in them. For this feat, which testified to his talent as a commander and his devotion to duty, Sergei Sergeyevich was awarded the Order of Lenin and promoted to the rank of Major General. At the same time, his eldest daughter, Nina, went to the front and died fighting for her homeland in 1944. From October 1942, the hero of our story held the responsible position of Commander of the Artillery of the Voronezh Front. This front played a decisive role in the victory over the German troops on the southern face of the Kursk Bulge, and this is the indisputable merit of the strategist and artillerist Vorontsov. This success was achieved thanks to the skillful actions of the artillerymen under Vorontsov's command. They had to withstand the fierce attacks of hundreds of German tanks, including the most modern and powerful machines, Tigers and Panthers. In October 1943, the Voronezh Front was renamed the First Ukrainian Front. In the last 2 years of the war, it became the main shock front of the Red Army, operating in the direction of the main attack and solving the most complex and crucial combat missions. It was the first Ukrainian front that was entrusted with the capture of Berlin, largely thanks to the outstanding artillery commander and his unsurpassed skill in warfare. By the end of the Great Patriotic War, Lieutenant General Vorontsov's uniform was decorated with the Star of Hero of the Soviet Union and 9 other orders, testifying to his combat merits. The rise and fall of Marshal Vorontsov. From 1955, Marshal Vorontsov headed the country's artillery, and from 1961 he was also entrusted with the command of the missile forces. Soldiers and officers respectfully and affectionately called Sergei Sergeyevich the father of the USSR missile troops. However, his relations with the highest political and military leadership did not develop smoothly. The commander did not become a typical parquet marshal, neglecting the unwritten rules of the Soviet nomenclature. He was alien to hoarding, gossip, and intrigue, endless feasts, hunting, and fishing trips so popular among the highest echelons of power. His only interest was service, where he zealously defended the development of missile forces without detriment to traditional artillery, protecting it from reduction and possible destruction. This independence and adherence to principles irritated the leadership, primarily Nikita Khrushchev, as well as the commander of the ground forces, Vasily Chuikov. Sergei Sergeyevich had a conflict with Leonid Brezhnev during the war in 1944, which Brezhnev later gloatingly reminded the chief marshal of artillery about. The exposure in 1962 of Colonel Oleg Penkovsky, who worked for Western intelligence agencies, played a fatal role in Vorontsov's fate. In 1944 and 1945, Penkovsky served as an adjutant to Vorontsov and even had friendly relations with him. After the war, their paths diverged for several years. However, in the mid-1950s, the Marshal secured a revision of Penkovsky's negative character reference to a positive one, which helped Oleg to head a course at the Dzerzhinsky Academy. Subsequently, Vorontsov facilitated Penkovsky's return to the main intelligence directorate. Their friendship resumed, and the future traitor became a frequent guest in the house of his former commander. It is important to note that at that time, Penkovsky had not yet been recruited by foreign intelligence services. This happened only in 1960. And most importantly, the investigation failed to prove that Oleg had passed intelligence information to the Marshal. Therefore, Vorontsov was only a witness in the case. Despite all attempts, no charges were brought against him. Nevertheless, the organizational conclusions were extremely harsh, and Sergei Sergeyevich was publicly disgraced. After his resignation, the former marshal felt deeply ashamed and was afraid even to appear on the street, preferring to walk only at night. So, what was Vorontsov's fault? That he failed to recognize a spy in his former adjutant. But Oleg Penkovsky was a colonel, a holder of 4 military orders, a veteran of the war. The question arises, why did Serov, the head of the GRU and Penkovsky's direct superior, not recognize the Judas in him? Moreover, Serov and Penkovsky were close friends. When Serov's wife and daughter were vacationing in Europe, they were always accompanied by Colonel Penkovsky as a guide, who by that time had already been recruited by Western intelligence agencies. However, Serov remained in service in 1963, although he was demoted to deputy commander of the Turkestan Military District. Conclusion: in March 1971, the legendary military leader died. His wife and children tried for many years to achieve his rehabilitation, but their efforts were in vain. Only after the collapse of the USSR in the 1990s was their application finally considered by the main military prosecutor's office. However, the answer they received was disappointing. If the Chief Marshal of Artillery had been prosecuted at the time, we would have undertaken a review of this case. But the law on rehabilitation does not apply to Vorontsov's case. Marshal Vorontsov, Trude Newspaper, April 5, 2001. The case reached a dead end. This is how cruelly and unjustly fate treated a most honest and worthy man, one of the main heroes of the Great Patriotic War, Chief Marshal of Artillery Vorontsov. And this in the lauded Soviet Union? Thank you for your attention. We were glad to see you on our channel. Don't forget to leave comments, like, and subscribe.